chapter is kind of split into two parts. And maybe it could have been written as two chapters. So remember back in Moby Dick how there were these occasional chapters that were from somebody else's point of view and not Ishmael's. And this chapter worked the same sort of way, where half of it was from the point of view of the robin, and then half of it was the kids playing on a rainy day. And there was a nice little transition in there about how Mrs. Robin was kind of sad and lonely when the kids weren't there because she got so used to them and that they were entertaining. Now, they talked about the exercises that the kids did. And, these flailing around and moving their arms and jumping and running. And I'm not exactly sure what the exercises are. That's not really explained. But one of the things that was kind of brought to mind, what came to mind when they discussed the exercises, was there was a famous bodybuilder by the name of Charles Atlas. And he had a book of bodybuilding and a whole set of exercises that were called isometric exercises, where the idea is that you work one muscle against another. And by doing that, you build up strength in both muscles. So all of the muscles in your body are opposed. So you have the bicep and the tricep. You have, I can't remember what the other ones are, but every muscle is opposed to other muscles in the body so that you can move your arm this way and you can move your arm that way. Now, the idea is that you take muscles and you work them against each other. For instance, if you take your hands like this and you push really hard, you work these muscles, and you build up symmetry and strength. And then you can go like this and work the muscles that are opposite of it. And that allows you to develop the muscles in similar strength. Because if one side is stronger, like for instance, if you're always carrying stuff with your right hand, so you go out, you pick up your shovel and you carry it in the right hand and you carry it in the right hand, the right arm is going to be bigger and the right arm is going to be stronger. If you carry your books in the right hand, the right arm is going to be bigger and stronger. So it'll be a little bit more muscled. But when you go like this, because you're keeping it in the middle, the left side gets more exercise because the right side doesn't have to work as much. You only use 90% of the muscles on the right-hand side, so only 90% of the muscles get exercised. And on the left-hand side, all of them get exercised, so all of them get big. And so Charles Atlas had this whole program. He came up with a bunch of different exercises. And he made a book, and he published the book, and he ran ads for it in all of these magazines. And the tagline was, "I was a 98-pound weakling." And so 98 is very skinny for a full-grown man. I'm overweight at well over 200, but ideally, I'm almost three. Let's be frank. I'm almost 300 pounds. But for my height, my ideal weight is about 210, 220. That's what the height weight chart says. My doctor says I should probably be about 250 because the height weight chart kind of has this square cube problem, where as your height goes up, as something gets bigger, a cube grows by, a cube. So if you take a square and you take a cube, or, a cube like a box, and you make it twice as wide and twice as long and twice as deep, you end up with 8 times the area. So here I am, I'm almost 2 meters tall, which means I should in theory weigh 8 times what somebody who's 1 meter tall weighs. If you're to just take a 1 meter tall person and scale them up to my height. So if you're to take like a 5-year-old and scale them up to my height, 6-year-old, something like that, about 1 meter, I should in theory weigh 8 times that, which would put me 400 something pounds, I think, for a typical 8 times a typical 6-year-old. So it's kind of a square cube problem thing going on. So that's Charles Atlas. the eggs. Now, when they were talking with the robin, talking about the eggs, the word eggs were capitalized as if it was a proper noun. So these are eggs. And from a robin's point of view, the eggs are everything. The eggs are the next generation. Eggs are their children, eggs are their life. Robin's eggs are kind of cool. They are blue. They are this sort of deep, deep sky blue. They are the blue just before the sun sets on a cold winter day. They are, it's a blue that is so unique that it's referred to as robin's egg blue. So, I mean, imagine something that defines a color. You have robin's eggs, which define a shade of blue, and then you have oranges. And beyond that, there's some stuff, but you have red, you have yellow, you have green, you have purple, you have orange, you have robin's egg blue. And so this is one of those colors that it's just like it has a marked place. And so robin's eggs are these bright, brilliant blues. And at first, the robin was afraid of Colin because he was moving slowly. And he thinks that, oh, it's like a cat moving slowly. Because cats, when they sneak, and people when they sneak, and things when they sneak, move slowly enough, then you may not be noticed. And that's how you sneak up on something. You move a little bit, and then a little bit, and then a little bit. If you do it slowly, then they may not notice that you're getting closer. You may actually get into arm's reach and then pounce like a cat. So there's tricks to this. You move slowly, you move quietly. And so the robin was thinking, hey, he's moving slowly. That's how cats move just before they jump. So the robin was at first thinking that. And then when Colin was able to run and started running, the robin realized, oh, this is just like a fledgling. And a fledgling is what you call a bird when it's getting its first real feathers. So you have the bird, and when it's born, it's covered with something called down, which is just this fluff. It's just the most adorable, fuzzy fluff. And then then pin feathers grow in, which are short and spiky and ugly. And the down falls out. And then the pin feathers develop into real feathers. And the process of the down falling out and being replaced by real feathers is called fledging. So if you hear something referred to as fully fledged, that means it's like a bird all grown up. It's something that has completed the transformation into whatever. So you have the fledgling bird. And what happens is they jump out of their nests and they try to fly and they can't. And this sounds horrible because, as I said, they try to fly and they can't, and they fall to the ground and thunk. But squirrels are squirrels are small enough. Back to the whole square cube thing. So the mass goes up with the cube, the surface area goes up with the square. So squirrels have a much lower terminal velocity than people do. So I jump out of an airplane, I'm going 120, 180 miles an hour when I hit. A squirrel's going 5 or 10. So the squirrel goes 5 or 10 miles an hour, and it falls and it lands, and it can climb up a tree again. And it could fall out of an airplane. It doesn't matter how far it falls. It'll never get more than like 5 or 10 miles an hour, which is not enough to hurt it. So the bird's the same way. The bird is so tiny that it has so much surface area that it never, there's so much drag. The air's pushing on it so hard that it never builds up enough speed to hurt itself. So yeah, it falls out of its nest and it flaps. But then it has to get up back into the tree somehow. And I read about this. A friend does animal conservation. Actually, a few friends do animal conservation. One of them wrote about if you see a bird out of its nest, that don't touch it, it's probably going to be okay. And they talked about how birds fall out of their nests trying to fly, and they climb back up onto the tree. And I was lucky enough to see a bird doing this once. And it's got to be the coolest thing. So you have the bird, and it has the little wings, but the wings can't really grab on anything because feathers. It has feet with the claws. So it takes the claws, it goes, grabs onto the tree, stretches up, uses the beak to grab. It moves the claws up a little bit, stretches up, uses the beak to grab. So I saw this bird just sort of inching up the side of the tree, and I was like, that is the coolest thing. And so the bird inched up to the tree, to the branch, walked out across the branch to the nest, and jumped again. And it started climbing back up the tree. The process of it climbing up the tree is just so slow. It's like, okay, that's cool to see once. The bird's happy, the bird's surviving. And it's like, okay, leave the bird alone. But anyway, so the robins, the eggs are the future. Oh, and then they explored the house. Colin and Mary explored the house, the huge, wonderful manor house that was built up over all the years. Colin with his 5 great aunt. So great aunt. So that's, 30 years a generation, 6 generations, 200 years almost. And so here you have, a picture that's 200 years old and probably hasn't been seriously looked at in most of that time. But, they're exploring this big, huge, beautiful house. And the servants are starting to catch on that, and everybody's actually starting to catch on that Colin is getting healthy. The footman who was carrying Colin up and down the stairs. It's like, okay, here we have this little invalid wasting, doesn't eat nothing but skin and bones. Oh yeah, that's easy to carry. And it's like, no, now he's eating. Now he's growing. And because of malnutrition from not eating, his growth could be stunted, which means now that all of a sudden he's eating, he's likely to start growing. So it could be that not only is he getting heavier, there's a good chance that he's going to just start growing 4 or 5 inches. And there's no way that you hide that because, you can go from the sleeves here to the sleeves there. Everyone notices that. It's like, hey, wait a minute, the shirt doesn't fit. Well, it wouldn't be, be stretched out like that. It could go, I can't reach. The sleeve wouldn't go all the way. Your Lolly got this shirt for me, and it's great because it's comfy and it fits. I'm a big guy, not just heavy, but broad-shouldered, long arms, and cuffs work. So that's awesome. Anyway, that is the chapter.